This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network.
Visit bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 52nd ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the Revel Advertising Studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great, Cameron. We have a lot of fun stuff going on this weekend. This is like the greatest. It's like the greatest weekend of all time.
Greatest time of the year, at least.
It absolutely is, according to me, because it always is. But a lot of fun stuff going on this weekend. Football starting. We got a fantasy football draft this weekend. You've been telling me all your strategies and everything. So
those are all fake strategies.
You're gonna kill it.
Yeah, keeping all my real strategies to myself. We got a lot to talk about this week. We're gonna preview the Wyoming game. We are previewing football games for Mizzou because they play this Saturday, so that's really exciting. And then we've got some fun segments we're gonna do. We're basically just gonna completely rip off a segment from the old radio show Russillo and Cannell, where they drafted college football playoff contenders to see who could predict the correct playoff scenario. So they're not on the air anymore, and they would never find out that we did this. So if we get real big, we'll cancel.
Makes it okay.
We'll delete all the episodes. If it's a problem with Ryan, I'll reach out to him on Twitter and just make sure it's okay.
Yeah, really clear up the air.
Yeah. Before we do any of that, though, we have some news, and we'll start it off with a little bit of basketball news, some visits to talk about that have been scheduled. 2020 big man Davion Bradford has scheduled an official visit to Missouri for September 14th. Missouri will be hosting SEMO in football, so he'll get to see a blowout.
Hopefully. This is definitely good news. I think that we might be on commitment watch for this visit. I think that Missouri will roll out the red carpet for Davion Bradford. I think this is definitely a guy they want. He's on their priority A list. So hopefully this visit goes well. I'm sure it will, as most visits do, I'm sure. Do you know if he has any other official visits scheduled? Okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
I think that he will end up at Missouri, and probably just a matter of when that happens.
Another guy that has an official visit scheduled is Josh Christopher. You may have heard of him. His official visit got leaked. I didn't see the original tweet. I just saw him reacting to it, and the tweet was deleted.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Did you see any more than that?
No, I really didn't. I'm not really sure what happened, but yeah, exactly as you said. His reaction was like, I don't know how this got leaked, but yes, I guess I'll announce now that I'm taking official visits.
So that'll be his second trip to Columbia, and it's going to be during basketball season, so much later than the visits that we're talking about right now. He's also visiting Kentucky, and that's all that really matters.
Which I think he's scheduled an official and an unofficial to Kentucky, so 2 visits to Kentucky. He's not visiting Arizona State because I guess he goes there all the time. Yeah. So, which is what we thought maybe Caleb Love might do with Mizzou. So Joshua Christopher is not going to go to Arizona State. He is going to visit UCLA, but I think that's really the only Western school that he's going to visit, which surprised me a little bit.
It's just a good sign that they're going to get him back on campus, though. I mean, that's the only thing you can hope for at this point. Just stay in the mix as long as possible.
I think they have a shot. We'll see. Got a longer way to go on that one probably than Caleb Love.
Yeah. All right. Switching gears now to football. First thing I have here, the football team has announced that the 2020 game against Arkansas, which was obviously supposed to be a home game, technically will still be a home game for Mizzou, but it will be held at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City.
Yeah, I think that'll be cool. Obviously, we're playing at Arkansas in Little Rock this year, so they're hosting their game in a different place, and so I guess I think we owed Arrowhead like another game.
What I read was I was reading a little bit about that, but the MU curators in the Kansas City region were worried that with the move to the SEC, Missouri MU's presence in Kansas City would be diminished. And so part of getting the Kansas City area curators on board with the move to the SEC was to say, no, don't worry about it. We'll still play in the Sprint Center. We'll still play at Arrowhead. So they're basically just fulfilling that commitment.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think it's a good move, especially it being Thanksgiving weekend and on Black Friday and everything. Obviously, all the students are probably going to be out of town and everything. So it being in Kansas City, I think gives them a better opportunity to maybe have a better turnout for that game. And if you remember, I think the 2015 season is the last time we played a game at Arrowhead against BYU. Yep. That was Drew Lock's, I almost said rookie year. Drew Lock's freshman year. We had an amazing defense, terrible offense, barely squeaked by BYU. And that was, I think, the game right after Gary Pinkel announced his retirement, and a couple of guys like kind of awkwardly carry him off the field, and just like a bizarre ending to the night.
Really weird season.
Yeah.
Not very much good football being played.
Right. Yeah, I guess that was the protest season as well. So that was just an all-around bizarre year. So hopefully this is, even though we won that game, hopefully this is just a better experience, a little better taste in our mouth after this game at Arrowhead next year.
Next up for the news, the captains were announced for the 2019 football season. They consist of quarterback Kelly Bryant, running back Larry Roundtree, cornerback DeMarcus Acey, linebacker Cale Garrett, and defensive tackle Jordan Elliott. So, in my opinion, no surprises at all there.
No surprises. Yes or no, all 5 of those guys are gone after this season. Larry Roundtree and Jordan Elliott are juniors.
Yes.
Okay. I think I agree with you. Maybe on Larry Roundtree, we'll see.
I was about to say,
I got to stay on brand from last week. I said Larry Roundtree would not leave. So in that case, I absolutely very strongly disagree with you. Larry Roundtree will not leave after this season.
We'll see how many times you change your mind on that. More football news. Wide receiver Alex Ofadale is retiring from football. And one thing that I read that I thought was kind of cool, he already has his master's degree at 22 years old. Wow,
that's very impressive. And his dad, obviously, is the tight ends coach at Missouri. It's a bummer to see. He's kind of had a strange arc from high school. Obviously, he was like a 5-star recruit.
Yeah.
Really, really big deal. And then
played in Columbia at Rockbridge.
Yeah, played literally in Columbia. Then goes to Oregon for college, which is really far away, obviously. So kind of a strange move there.
You heard it here first. Oregon is far away from Missouri.
You agree with me?
I do. I strongly agree.
That's good. So we do agree on that. Not on Larry Roundtree, but we do agree on Oregon being far away. Geography, yes. So yeah, he didn't really play there, and then comes back. I don't even think he caught a pass at Missouri last year. Maybe he did. I don't know. He didn't do very much though. So interesting. Just kind of last 4 or 5 years for him, but obviously super smart guy. He's gonna carve out a career somewhere not in football.
And then last bit of news I have is quarterback Lindsey Scott Jr. has decided to transfer from Missouri.
Yeah, no surprise there after he got beat out for the second string with Taylor Powell. It's pretty shocking, actually, a little bit, because he still has to play on my 7-on-7 team. So
I was going to ask who drafted him.
I am a little bit bummed about that, considering now I'm going to have to beat you 6-on-7 somehow.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Or I'm going to have to get my backup quarterback in there, which I don't know who it is at this point. So I'm too sad to even think about it.
Yeah, your season's over. Yeah, as far as 7-on-7 goes.
It is.
So. Another thing that probably impacted his decision was Sean Robinson.
Yeah, definitely
joining the team.
Yeah, I mean, totally understand at this point. I mean, the playing time is not going to be there for him here. So good luck to him. I hope he finds a good another opportunity somewhere. I'm sure he's a talented kid. He's gonna find a good place somewhere, I'm sure.
All right, that's all the news I have, unless anything snuck in on us. You got anything?
You wanted to talk about the depth chart. That's coming up later, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about that a little bit later on.
So we got two options for our next little segment here. We can do our college football playoff draft, or we can run through the SEC Week 1 slate and do the first edition of SEC Pick'em plus Nebraska for the new year.
What are you trying to tell us, producer Cameron?
We always end with the SEC Pick'em, so I think we should keep
That's a good point.
Let's do the draft.
Tradition alive.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So, for anybody that doesn't know what we are doing here, I'll try to explain it as best as I can. We're each going to have 4 spots representing the 4 teams that make the college football playoff. We're going to do a snake draft, and basically we're picking teams that we think have a shot of ending up in the Final Four at the end of the year. And then when that time comes, we will look at our rosters of teams, and whoever has the highest average according to the college football playoff rankings will win.
Easy enough.
And I'll pull up a random number generator.
If I think Clemson's going to win, I can't pick them for all 4 spots.
That's absolutely correct. You cannot.
Okay. Had to just make sure, because if I could, I probably would.
All right. Producer Cameron's number 1. Kyle's number 2. I'm number 3.
Snake draft.
Oh, my God.
And I get the first pick.
Wait, what?
I'm random number generating.
Oh, I thought you were saying the draft
No.
order. I was like, I thought you just said your third.
Sorry.
Okay.
And Kyle gets the second pick.
I like that so much better, actually.
Yeah, you probably lucked out.
I did.
Speaking of luck,
Oh, my
can we take a second
word.
to talk about Andrew Luck?
Yeah, we could take a second.
What are you guys' thoughts on that? Because that's a whirlwind of a story. He retired at the age of 29, like a probably top 6 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
And his home team fans booed him off the field when he wasn't even playing in a preseason game.
Yeah. I was definitely shocked when I saw that on like the breaking news, like bottom line. I don't remember what I was watching. I think it was the Florida-Miami game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was definitely shocking. Not shocking that fans did something stupid. I just will say, I guess, good for him that he's able to go out in his own power.
Yeah.
And he seems like a really, really cool guy, really obviously smart guy. So more power to him, I guess, for getting out when he wants to, and he's going to have a very good life ahead of him.
Yeah. I still don't really get the booing or like people being angry with him. I mean,
it's his life.
Yeah.
Like, he's the one who's been hurt off and on. Like,
Right.
why?
He's done everything he can for you at this point.
And
I'm sure if he could play and felt like he could play and be healthy, he totally would.
Right.
So,
yeah, it doesn't really make sense.
It's
Anyway, that
just
was a
dumb.
Sidebar, but that was kind of a crazy story. So I wanted to see what you guys thought.
Yeah, that was so shocking for sure.
All right. So we're not really going to have a clock or anything. This should go pretty quick. We're just going to pick some teams.
Nice.
And I have the first overall pick. So I'm going to pick Clemson. I think they're going to be number 1 the entire season, not lose a game, and end up in the Final Four.
I'll take Alabama.
Producer Cameron, you're on the clock.
I will take Oklahoma.
Can you speak into your mic a little more?
Oklahoma. Sorry, can't see my screen.
And you get another pick, snake draft.
Yeah. Ohio State's not, like, banned, right?
That's an excellent question.
No, and they never will be no matter what happens.
I'll take Ohio State.
Interesting. Well, I've already taken Alabama, which is an SEC school.
Are they?
The other very obvious school that I could take at the moment is Georgia, which is also an SEC school.
You're kind of hedging your bet there, you know.
I guess I'm going to get one of these 2 schools in, so I'll pick Georgia.
You could get them both. That actually happened.
It could.
Not after Missouri beats Georgia, though.
That's true. Guess I'm going to have to root for Georgia now, right?
Yeah. All right. So I get 2 picks here. I'm going to go ahead and snatch up the next best SEC team in LSU. And then I'm going to pass on Michigan and take the lower ranked Notre Dame. So that brings it back to you, Kyle.
I'm also going to pass on Michigan. I'm going to pass on Florida, and I'm going to take Texas.
That would suck if Texas made the Final Four.
I unfortunately think Texas might be pretty good this year. But I would hate that.
Yeah.
That'd be awful.
Producer Cameron, you're up for your third pick.
I thought I was going to take Michigan, but I don't know if I want 2 Big Ten teams.
Probably not.
Probably not.
I don't even want 1 Big Ten team.
You could take Nebraska, dude.
Sleeper. I guess I'll take Florida.
And your last pick.
Sleeper Washington.
From the Pac-10 or Pac-12 that has been shut out of the playoff entirely.
Yeah.
Multiple times. They're due.
Someone's got to get in.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Sleeper Utah.
Again, from the Pac-12. All right, and I will finish us off with Nebraska's ranked 24th. Oh my gosh. Clemson, LSU, Notre Dame. I'll take Michigan. Good value there.
Good value.
So the way this works, next week, how do we decide order?
Next week, you'll get first opportunity to do anything.
Okay.
And you can switch out any of your teams for any that are unclaimed. But you can only do 1.
Yeah.
And then it'll be Kyle's turn and then my turn. And then you can do a second one if you want. You could do 4 in 1 week. You just have to take turns.
Okay.
And then if you stand pat, you'll have the first opportunity to do it again next week.
Okay.
So you'll have first opportunity until you do
Until
it.
I take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I ended up with a 4-team roster of Clemson, LSU, Notre Dame, and Michigan. Kyle has Alabama, Georgia, Texas, and Utah. Producer Cameron has Oklahoma, Ohio State, Florida, and Washington. So we'll see. We'll see if any of these teams lose week 1.
Probably not.
Yeah, I would think not. But Florida almost did.
Man, that was an ugly game.
Oh, man. I kind of lost interest just because every other play was, I guess it was exciting, but it was just so ugly. I mean...
Did you watch the very beginning?
Yeah, I think so.
Was it just me, or were the players just, like, so amped?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They were, like, freaking out. They were, like, tweaking.
Mm-hmm. They were ready to legitimately have a brawl.
Yeah, they were going crazy, but I guess that's what you want.
I suppose.
They both were just terrible offense.
Yeah.
Stupid mistakes.
Not scared of Florida whatsoever this season.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be too scared of Miami if I was in the
Obviously,
ACC.
like a long way away from the Florida game. We don't play them for like 2 months.
Yeah, that's what sucks. I kind of wish we were playing them like instead of South Carolina
right
at the beginning.
I agree.
All right. So now, without further ado, we will preview Wyoming.
Let's do it.
Missouri plays at Wyoming after hosting them last year. Wyoming this is their first game of the season. In the S&P Plus, they're ranked 77th in the country, and they are in the Mountain West Conference. And like I said, Missouri beat them last year in Columbia 40-13. So I thought each week when we preview the team, we could just go ahead and talk about the depth chart.
Yeah.
At that time and see if there's any changes from the previous week. This week, we have the first official depth chart for a game.
Mm-hmm.
You want to take us through any notable things in that?
Yeah. Obviously, the big thing that a lot of people have pointed out on Twitter and everything is Jarvis Ware starting at cornerback over Christian Holmes, who I thought was very, very good at times last year. Maybe even better than AC was for a lot of the year. Now, Holmes, I don't believe played in the secondary in high school. Either that or he may have played, I think he may have played both ways to some degree. But so he may not have a ton of experience playing cornerback, but I still thought he was very good at times last year. So I was surprised to see Jarvis Ware starting over Holmes, but I think both those guys will both play a ton. So honestly, it probably doesn't end up meaning a whole lot for snap count. So that was the big thing for sure. There was definitely some true freshmen that are on the 2 and 3 deep. One of them that surprised me was on offensive line. Thalen Robinson is a true freshman, and he is on the 2 deep backing up Trevor Wallace-Sims at right guard. You just don't normally see offensive linemen, like true freshman offensive linemen, come in and potentially, play right away because it just takes a long time for them to develop their bodies into.
Yeah, you also don't usually see many true freshmen that are 6'7", 315 though.
That is a good point. And then Maurice Massey is on the 2 deep behind Jonathan Nance. So we've seen some pretty impressive things from Massey just on random videos out of fall camp and stuff. So freak athlete. His body looks college ready.
I didn't realize how tall he was. He's listed at 6'3", and he looks every bit of it when you see little highlight tapes.
Super built and really fast. So definitely a guy that's going to see the field a lot. And then
I feel really good about that top 7.
I do too.
Wide receiver
right.
list.
I do too. And Nance is obviously a senior, so Massey may have a ton of playing time in his time at Missouri if he's going to take over that starting spot next year. I was a little bit surprised to see Jalen Knox and Cam Scott as like a or, so either one of them could really be the starter, I guess. I really like Cam Scott. Obviously, he's a really good player. Made some crazy athletic plays last year. Super exciting plays.
Was that ridiculous touchdown grab? That snatched it out of the air.
Gosh, that was one of the most athletic looking plays I've literally maybe ever seen.
Yeah.
That was so cool. And I just think Jalen Knox maybe isn't as much the spectacular play guy, but it's just like the rock. He's always really steady and super talented. So,
which is saying a lot considering he's a true sophomore this
exactly.
season.
Yeah. So I think we may have to count on Jalen Knox a lot for somebody who hasn't played a whole lot. But I think both those guys are going to play a ton, obviously. So those are really the only things that really, I guess, surprise me per se. But
thanks, Menards, for that.
Somebody just got like a free ad on our podcast. Menards, they did not. Just
what can you tell me about Jatorian Hansford?
Yeah, he is a guy that I think he's a sophomore because I don't think he redshirted last year. He probably played on special teams and stuff, but normally may not expect him to come in and start, but obviously with our lack of depth at defensive end, he's going to be counted on to perform and really pretty quickly. I don't know a whole lot about him yet, but I know he plays very violently, and he's gonna hit hard. He's gonna give you 100% all the time. Really good motor. He probably still needs to work on his technical form and just make sure he really knows the playbook. So that's probably what he spent all offseason doing, was just working on his technique and just learning the plays and learning the scheme. So it might take a few games for him to really get up to speed, but he could end up having a really nice season. I think he'll be a really good player by the time he's done.
We need somebody to step up and provide dependable pass rush.
Yeah, and of course, Trajan Jeffcoat is another sophomore who has a ton of potential. Will probably be a really elite pass rusher at some point, but he has been sidelined for pretty much all fall camp with a elbow injury. So he's going to miss week 1. He's not even on the depth chart, I don't think, but he hopefully will be back whenever the games start to count. And then Trey Williams also is another guy who's going to work into the rotation now. So there's a ton of bodies, maybe not a ton, but there's bodies at defensive end. We just need somebody to be consistent and step up. And we may end up getting a decent pass rush from Jordan Elliott and some of those guys on the interior, with Akil Byers as well. So I honestly, we might get the most sacks from our interior line this year. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
And now it's confirmed that Tucker McCann will be punting and kicking field goals / extra points. So that'll be kind of interesting.
I don't know if I've ever seen that before, but
Not Missouri.
I don't know. I've seen it so many times talked about online about kind of like a pitch count with him for punting and kicking, but I don't know if I really buy that. Somebody who's in good shape and plays every day, practices every day, I can't imagine that would be that big of a deal that he has to punt a few times on top
Hopefully
of his kicking duties. Yeah.
All right. So specifically talking about Wyoming, last year they got torched by Drew Lock and Emmanuel Hall. Lock threw for almost 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Emmanuel Hall had 10 catches for 171 yards.
That's crazy.
So Wyoming last year was kind of known for their defense. You know,
they had like an NFL caliber safety who's not there anymore.
Right, and especially their pass defense, and Missouri kind of just threw it all over the field on them, especially in the second half.
I was going to say, if you remember though, the first half was a little sketchy. It started off pretty slow. As a lot of times it seems like Barry Odom teams do. We kind of start off slow at the beginning of the year, but I think this obviously Emmanuel Hall's been a dependable target for Locke for a couple of years now, but I feel like this was truly the game where it was like, okay, Hall is like the dude. He is like the number one like receiver far and away. Our offense depends on him. Right. I think this was the first game where we really saw that. And then pretty quickly after this game, we realized when he's not on the field, it makes a difference. But there were some crazy plays in this game last year where, like, I felt like the pass from Drew Lock was almost so perfect it was almost dangerous, and Emmanuel Hall would just snag it and just come down with it every time. So, both of those guys are gone now. So it'll be interesting to see who steps up.
It worries me a little bit that was such a huge part of that win, and it's non-existent this year.
Well, fortunately for us, and I think we'll cover this in a minute, but I think this is a pretty different Wyoming team that we're going to see this year. So hopefully that won't matter a whole lot.
Yeah, since we're talking about Missouri's offense, we'll go ahead and talk about Wyoming's defense. Their head coach, Craig Bohl, that's his calling card when he was coaching an FCS team. They're building towards that. Their defense has gotten better every year as far as efficiency goes. But they're losing a lot of starters, several starters on the defensive line, and that defensive line never really got pressure on the quarterback at all last year. They didn't even get close to Locke in that game.
Yeah.
But in their Mountain West Conference games, they didn't have much of a pass rush, and so they're losing a few of those guys. And they do bring back a few good pieces in their secondary. Like you said, they lose a big name at safety. And they were pretty good against passing offenses last year. However, when they played what I would call an elite duo in Drew Lock and Emmanuel Hall, they got torched. So I don't see, because we don't know if Missouri has that sort of go-to guy, Emmanuel Hall-esque or Emmanuel Hall light, something like that. We'll see if somebody emerges, but it may be kind of a game-to-game thing where a different guy could go off each game.
I think so. It's going to be much more of a committee feel, and honestly, that's probably a good thing because like I mentioned, when Emmanuel Hall was not there, we couldn't move the ball at all, and so
hopefully the balance is a little bit more healthy for the offense overall.
I think it definitely will be. Obviously, there's some talented freshmen that we've talked about already that are going to be a year older and know the playbook better and all this stuff, and kind of hopefully taking that next step. Another thing I wanted to just throw in here really quick about Wyoming's defense was they, like you said, were already pretty ineffective. Their defensive line, but they lost a starting defensive lineman, Ravante Holt, to a torn ACL about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So what was weak is probably even worse now. So we
expect Missouri to win the battle of the trenches with the offensive line easily.
Definitely.
Yeah. As far as Wyoming's offense goes, they were awful passing the ball last year, decent running the ball, but still their efficiency numbers were just horrendous. They did suffer a couple injuries at quarterback, kind of went back and forth between two guys. Now, redshirt freshman Sean Chambers is going to be the starter, it looks like, moving forward. He's more of a runner than a thrower. Last year, he won 3 games that he started and threw the ball a total of 23 times in those 3 games.
Wow.
So you never know. I mean, they could have sort of changed their structure. When you got a red shirt, or when you got a true freshman like he was last year, he was able to play in a few games and still redshirt. He also had an injury that kind of forced that upon them. But, you got to hope for Wyoming's sake that he's picked up a little bit more of the offense as far as throwing the ball goes. But they're going to be heavily reliant on the run this year, even if he has improved as a passer. And I think Missouri's just going to be able to play man-to-man coverage and basically key in on the run and shut them down. I don't think Missouri's defense is going to have any issue with this offense.
I think I agree with you. And this is a little bit different, but if you recall, last year when we played Purdue, their quarterback was labeled a running quarterback and then threw for like 500 yards against us. David Blau was his name, if you remember that game.
That's not going to happen in this game.
I think I agree with you, but I don't know, man. I'm not going to be – I'm at this point, I don't know if I'm going to be shocked at anything as far as our defense. I think our defense is going to be a lot better this year. But just like I have nightmares about, the Missouri State game a couple years ago and the Purdue game last year, and in some of these games where it's like I start to feel good about our secondary, and then something like that happens. And a lot of those guys that were there for those games are still around. Obviously, they're older and more experienced now, but it's kind of the same group of guys.
Still, though, with this Wyoming team, they are so the opposite of explosive. Yep. They don't even try to manufacture home run plays. And so they're not just going to stumble onto them by accident.
Yeah.
I think I totally see what you're saying. And if it was a different team with a little bit more, a few more athletes at skill positions, I would maybe share your concerns a little bit more. But Wyoming just doesn't have the horses.
I get that.
And this quarterback, I think he's so unproven. Even with an off season, I don't think there's a whole lot of improvement that you'll see from him. I mean, they will be able to hopefully put together some kind of decent offense when it comes to conference play and maybe just wear teams out and really control the ball. But yes, I mean, there's no way they're going to be able to sustain drives against Missouri.
Yeah, they definitely want to run it too. Their quarterback is definitely not going to be the focus of what they want to do anyway. So I think you're exactly right when you say they're not even trying to really manufacture home run plays. Yeah. So
they've got a returning running back by the name of I think it's pronounced Zazavian Valade, but he's a sophomore and he had less than 400 yards and 3 touchdowns last year. But they do add a grad transfer from Louisville. His name is Trey Smith. So
a little easier name.
Yeah. And then they return like 250 yards total at wide receiver.
Wow.
So, yeah. They just don't have the skill guys to compete, I don't think. With that being said, before we get our official predictions for this game, I was wondering if you could give me like your top 3 players that you're going to be watching this week that you're really interested in seeing how they perform in this first game.
Well, I think normally I would not say Kelly Bryant. But I think this week it's such an easy answer, but I'm going to say Kelly Bryant just because it's his first game. I'm so excited to see what the offense looks like in comparison to what it's looked like the last 3 or 4 years. Because it will look different. We will run the ball more. You won't see the explosive plays, at least not as much as you're used to seeing from Drew Lock and company. So it might be a little bit of an adjustment. Just our offense is going to look different. So I'm definitely excited to see Kelly Bryant. I'm excited to see who he throws to the most. I think it's going to be Jalen Knox. So I'll just go ahead and say I'm going to watch Jalen Knox. And on defense, obviously I'm really excited to see what steps Jordan Elliott's taken. But I think I'm going to say Jarvis Ware, just because he's the new name that's really burst onto the scene. And I want to see what he brings to the table. Because it definitely seems like, okay, our secondary has got some guys that are experienced, but definitely not guys that, well, I guess AC's been pretty good, but Ware has to have probably been pretty good to come in and take that starting spot from a starter.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't think that's as much a knock on Christian Holmes as it is that Jarvis Ware must have really been performing. And I think I even saw where Barry Odom kind of said they have 3 guys at cornerback that they feel really good about.
Yeah, and they've talked highly of Jarvis Ware really the whole time he's been at Missouri. Obviously, last year's fall camp, he was a name that we heard a lot, and played a lot on special teams last year and stuff. So definitely a guy that's had a good history really the whole time he's been at Missouri so far. So I'm excited to see what he looks like.
I'll just add one name. I'm really interested to see what kind of season Alberto gets off to, like kind of early on.
Yeah.
If he looks really good, and hopefully we're seeing Missouri pull away in the third quarter and maybe pull some starters for the fourth quarter. But if he goes out there in the first half and catches 5 or 6 balls and has a nice touchdown or something like that, and then we're able to get Daniel Parker Jr. some reps. That I really want to see him be productive, and he's always been incredibly efficient, and I think he might see an uptick in touches this year. And so if he can keep that efficiency even a little bit, I think he'll have a really special season. Yeah. And I just want to see him get off to a good start, so that'll be one to watch. Yeah,
I think it'll be interesting to see how they use him, maybe differently than they have before. I think they may try to he's been very touchdown dependent so far as just the plays that he makes. We've talked about it the last few weeks. He has like 17 career touchdowns in like 18 career games or something. But I want to see, and I think what NFL people will want to see this year is him being used more in just the overall passing game, not just whenever we get in the red zone. Will we go to him for, just a 3rd and 3 in the middle of the field or something like that? I think I want to see him be more involved throughout the whole game, or no matter where we are in the drive.
Definitely agree with you there. And obviously, watching Kelly Bryant play his first game as a Missouri Tiger that's hopefully, if the season goes really well, that'll be one that we remember for a really long time.
Right. It's going to be weird not to see somebody other than Drew Lock, man. He played 4 years and never missed a game from injuries or anything.
Talking about that BYU game earlier, and that seems like forever ago.
Yeah, it kind of was. Yeah. Think about how different Missouri's program is from a football standpoint and just almost a university standpoint from what it was 4 years ago.
All right, I'm ready for your official prediction. If you can give me a score prediction, I'd really enjoy that.
Okay, I'll give you 41-17 Missouri. I don't think that Missouri will score that high consistently this year, but I think they probably will this weekend.
I like that. I like that 17 for Wyoming. I'm going to copy you there. And then I'm going to say that Missouri only scores 38.
Overall, I think this obviously is a game that Missouri should easily win. But something just kind of sketches me out about an away game against a non-Power 5 opponent to start off the year when Barry Odom's teams don't have a great history of starting off the year strong. There's just a little bit of concern. Not that they're going to lose the game, I guess. I don't think that they're going to lose the game really in any scenario, but just that the game's maybe closer than we want it to be, or that there's some kind of panicking. I don't know. I hope that we just go in there and cruise, obviously, but I don't know that we will.
Well, going back to that Florida-Miami game, and I tweeted about this whole offseason, we've been talking about the players and them executing and, just how fun it's going to be to watch them play. And then I watched that basically the first college football game of the year, and I saw penalties and turnovers and missed calls by the officiating staff, and I was like, oh yeah, this is what college football is.
Anything can happen.
This is not I don't know.
Like a video game where everything is like perfectly as it should.
Right. This is not just the players line up and execute perfectly and the better team wins.
And there's so many intangibles too. Obviously the players are thinking about things. I don't know. They're thinking about the altitude, even though it may not be a real big factor. They may not feel a huge difference in their stamina or whatever it is, but they're still thinking about it, and they've gone through things in their preparations for the game that they're thinking about. And I think I even read maybe on Power Mizzou that some of the players have been drinking beet juice, which
course.
is supposed to help them with their stamina for this game with the altitude difference and everything. Not to be confused with beetle juice. Beet juice. And apparently it is like the worst tasting thing ever. So I guess that shows you that they're really determined to do what it takes to be conditioned and win.
Yeah. I'm just scared for the first time that there's a blown call or just a horrendous penalty or a horrendous turnover, and I'm just pulling my hair out.
I know.
Please let it wait. Maybe let's wait till like week 5 before anything too disastrous happens.
It's because it sucks because I know how emotionally invested I am, and how like right now I'm just like I'm like a kindergartner walking into school for the first time. Like, all right, I'm ready to learn. Like, I'm ready for school. Like, I'm ready for this season to start. I'm really excited about all these players, but I know at some point in the season, like, they're gonna lose a game they shouldn't, or a call is gonna go the way it shouldn't, and I'm gonna be like heartbroken, because that's what makes football fun, and that's what makes the highs high and the lows low. But you're exactly right that it kind of hits you hard. Like, wow, a missed call. Like, haven't seen something like that in a while. It's been a whole off season of perfection.
Right, in your head. Yeah,
exactly.
All right. Well, we're both predicting a Missouri win in week 1. Let's take a look now at the entire SEC slate for week 1. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but we did this last year, and every week we picked every SEC game. I think I may have just skipped over some, like when
like Georgia versus
Alabama was
Vanderbilt
playing Corpus Christi or something like that.
Oh, gotcha.
Because it just didn't really make sense. But the way this works is you get a point for just getting the winner correct. You get 2 points if you correctly predict an upset.
An upset being the line
yes,
from Vegas.
An upset against the point spread that ESPN shows me when I pull it up on podcast recording day.
Gotcha.
Now, last year I kind of destroyed you in this competition. I don't know. It was complete luck on my part. Like, I don't have any special gift with picking SEC football games. So
you might.
Well, if I do, I don't really know about it, so I couldn't rely on it. So we'll see how it goes this year. Let me pull up the list here.
I think we actually have an SEC versus SEC game this weekend. I think Georgia and Vanderbilt play, which obviously Georgia should easily win, but it's still kind of cool that there's a game that, is important to the SEC East standings this week.
Yeah, that is kind of, I feel
seems very early for that.
Yeah, I feel like, I could be wrong, but I feel like when Missouri was in the Big 12, we just didn't see that much. Like,
I feel like we don't see it.
Week 1, week 2, we never saw that.
Yeah.
And I feel like in the SEC every year, not always week 1.
There's maybe one game.
But there's a lot of, like, week 2 each year, there's a conference matchup, and it always kind of surprises me. So we don't get to pick Florida. We're going to skip Texas A&M versus Texas State. But we are going to pick Kentucky hosting Toledo. And Kentucky is an 11.5 point favorite at home.
I actually think Toledo is pretty good and has a chance in this game. I think they will they could cover that, but I don't know that they'll win. So I'll pick Kentucky, but I think that could actually end up being a pretty competitive game.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Kentucky as well. Then we have Memphis hosting Ole Miss. So Ole Miss going on the road against a non-conference opponent, kind of like what Missouri is doing, but they're playing a much better opponent in Memphis. Memphis is actually a 5.5 point favorite at home.
I saw that. I'm going to pick Ole Miss for that upset pick,
Gotcha.
It is interesting that Memphis is favored. They're both kind of similar teams in a way. They both have high-powered offenses, not that great defense. But that'll definitely be one to keep an eye on. And it's an opponent that Missouri obviously will play in Ole Miss.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Ole Miss just because I want them to win, and so Missouri will have the best, be playing the best teams that they can to improve their resume. And I got to keep up with you if you do happen to get that upset right. It seems silly, but we are going to pick Duke versus Alabama in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. Even though Duke is a Power 5 opponent, Alabama is favored by 34.5 points.
Wow. Man, I guess Duke did just lose Daniel Jones. But, yeah, I mean, obviously I got to pick Alabama. But that spread seems very large, especially for... I mean, Alabama is dominant, but I feel like they don't normally like run up the score,
right?
If you know what I mean, I guess. But
yeah, obviously I'm going to pick Alabama as well. I just thought it was kind of crazy. If I was picking against the spread, I'd be really tempted to take Duke there.
I think I might too.
All right, a little bit better matchup in this one. We've got South Carolina going on the road to face their rival North Carolina. And in that one, South Carolina is a 10-point favorite.
That seems large to me. I think it'll be a pretty good game. I don't know much about North Carolina, but I'll just go ahead and pick South Carolina just because, kind of like you said earlier, I just kind of want them to win as the SEC team.
Yeah, me too. I'm picking South Carolina as well. Then let's go to Georgia going on the road against Vanderbilt. Georgia, a 22-point favorite on the road.
Yeah, I'll pick Georgia, but consider me the biggest Vanderbilt fan ever this weekend.
Yeah. Man,
how cool would that be to see Georgia go down week 1 against an SEC team.
Yeah, that would be incredible to see a 1 in the loss column for them early.
Yeah. Vanderbilt might surprise you. You never know.
True. Playing at home. I kind of wanted to do Arkansas, Portland State just for the meme, but we're going to skip that one. Arkansas did lose to...
I don't know. I was just thinking they lost to somebody.
Texas,
I think that's who it was. Yeah.
But we're going to skip that one and do Oregon versus Auburn.
Yeah, that's kind of the game of the week. The two ranked teams. Oregon's probably favored, aren't they?
Auburn is favored by 3.5.
Auburn's favored. Okay.
Oregon's ranked 11th.
Oregon is ranked
Auburn's
higher.
Ranked 16th.
Did you say where this game is?
I didn't, but I'll find it right now. It is at AT&T Stadium, Dallas.
Okay. I'll pick Auburn. I think Oregon's a little overrated, personally.
I think Oregon has the number 1 pick in the 2020 NFL Draft.
That's true.
And I think they'll win, and that would give me upset points, so seems worth the risk. And that looks like it's the only other meaningful game. Do you think you would have picked Florida in that matchup, right?
Yeah.
I think I would have too. And I wanted Florida to win because Missouri plays them later. All right. So then that just leaves one more game to pick this week, and it is whoever Nebraska's playing.
USA.
They're playing the United States national college football team. No, that's actually South
Alabama.
And producer Cameron, you got the spread for me on that one?
Yeah, Nebraska is favored by 36.5. Yowza.
This is a tough pick for me.
Last year, Kyle picked against Nebraska in like every single game, I think.
It worked pretty well.
Yeah.
Pretty good strategy. Last year, right, Cameron?
Yeah.
But this year, you don't want to throw any games away.
I don't want to throw any games away because I don't want you to stomp me like you did last year, even though you still might. I'll pick Nebraska against South Alabama.
I'll do it as well, although there's no way it's by 36.5 points.
Really?
Yeah. I'll take... If you want to take Nebraska as the favorite, I'll put $5 on USA with the points.
Covering the spread?
Yeah.
Might as well.
Okay,
it's a deal.
I'm already gonna get 20 off you later.
We got a lot of side bets going. We agreed earlier this week to bet Nebraska's win total versus Missouri's win total. If it's a push at the end of the regular season, nobody wins. But if Nebraska has more wins than Missouri, and actually you took them up on that deal as well, didn't you?
I
Kyle?
did.
Yeah, it's with both.
I sure did.
Cameron's on the hook for $10 if Missouri has a better regular season record than Nebraska. Seems like easy money for us.
That's easy money.
and I just need Nebraska to not run up the score on USA.
Lots of things to
When's
watch
that
this
game?
weekend.
Saturday morning?
Yes, 11 a.m.
Cool.
Missouri plays on like CBS Sports Network or something. Yeah. I hope I have that channel. I might.
You probably do. I do not, because I don't have any channels except what I can stream on ESPN app. So I'm going to...
I probably need to go check that when I go home.
Yeah. I'm going over to my father's house to watch the football game and have some fried fish.
Good, because just in case
hush puppies.
The curse is still alive by any chance.
The curse is so broken.
It's so dead. I hope.
It's so dead you'd have to go listen to last year's episodes to even know what we're talking about.
That's exactly right.
I think that's the episode this week. Unless you have any last minute thoughts you need to get out there.
I think that's it. Wow, really, we're signing off for the last time before the beginning of the season. Super excited. This has been an agonizing week as I have been thinking about all the fun stuff that's happening this weekend.
It can only go down from here.
It can only go down. So with that, you can find this podcast and all of our other podcasts on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. We're on Twitter at Mizzou Sports Pod, and you can email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
And you can find me on Twitter at C_Albert08. Thank you everyone for listening. We will see you next week. Go USA.
Go Huskies.
Huskies.
Washington.
You threw me off there. I thought I was going to have to dump that because you were talking about Nebraska.
It's like, since when is their mascot a husky?
I was about to say, if you said go Huskers, I was going to say, that's never making the episode.
I should have held out the Huskies.